Spider-Man No Way Home closed the door on one chapter of Peter Parker's story in the MCU, that being his origin trilogy. But at the same time, it opened up a whole new world of possibilities for Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man 5 and Spider-Man 6, now that nobody knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man and Spider-Man's identity is once again a secret. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this one. For my subscribers, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single upload. For everybody watching the video, like the video, share it with your friends and comment down below on what you want to see in Spider-Man 4 and the new Spider-Man trilogy going forward. Now that no one knows Spider-Man's identity again and everyone has forgotten Peter Parker even exists, he's going to be all alone with no one to share either side of his life with, and that will probably push him to focusing more of his time at being Spider-Man. He has just lost Aunt May, his girlfriend and his best friend are now strangers, so quite clearly he's going to be heavily grieving throughout this film. And one way they can make Peter cope with his grieving process is by finally bonding him with the Venom symbiote. As we know, the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene saw Venom from the Sony shared universe be taken out of the MCU and back in his reality, but in doing so, a piece of the symbiote was left behind, and this is obviously a tease of what's to come. At some point in the next trilogy, whether that's Spider-Man 4, 5 or 6, we're going to see Peter bond with the symbiote, and I believe the best time to make that happen should be in Spider-Man 4, where Peter is grieving as the symbiote will help him to cope during this stage. Now, even though Peter is with the symbiote in Spider-Man 4, I don't think Venom should be the main villain of this movie. Instead, I'd rather introduce Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 4 and have him build a relationship with Peter throughout the film, and obviously for whatever reason, something will happen that will make Eddie hate Peter, thus leading to Eddie becoming Venom in Spider-Man 5. We all know how the story goes with Spider-Man and the black suit. When it's all said and done, he's going to ditch it and go back to his classic red and blue. This will obviously happen in the MCU, but it shouldn't happen in Spider-Man 4. Instead, Peter could perhaps bond with the symbiote at the end of Act 2 of Spider-Man 4, leading into Act 3, where he gets a significant power boost to defeat the main villain of that story. The MCU Spider-Man is known for having at least 2 different suits per movie, and as we were literally just introduced to his latest and yet most comic accurate Spider-Man suit ever in live action at the end of No Way Home, it makes sense, given the history of this version of Spider-Man, that he will wear this suit for the majority of Spider-Man 4, but then end up with an entirely new suit by the end of the film. And the only new suit he should be having besides this new one is the black suit, which is of course the symbiote. So, with Peter now wearing the black suit at the end of Spider-Man 4, he will ditch the black suit at some point in Spider-Man 5, leading to Eddie Brock bonding with the symbiote to become Venom and the main antagonist of the 5th installment. So, if I think Venom shouldn't be the main villain in Spider-Man 4, then who? Well, that answer is quite simple, and that's of course none other than Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. And where there's Kingpin, there's also Charlie Cox's Daredevil. Spider-Man 4 should be a Spider-Man Daredevil team-up as they take down Kingpin's criminal empire. Spider-Man 4 should be more street level, more grounded, as we are essentially going back to basics, and Spider-Man is more of a basic street level character. So what better villain to have than a villain who literally runs the street in the form of Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk. It could be a case of there being a turf war going on between Kingpin and another crime boss like Hammerhead or Tombstone, where Spider-Man and Daredevil will need to work together to put an end to it. Peter in Spider-Man 4 is going to be more mature and would have learnt by then, hopefully, to stand on his own and not rely on people to help him all the time. So perhaps throughout the film he's rejecting Daredevil's help, partially due to not wanting to be responsible for more death on his hands like with his Aunt May, but by the end of the film he learns that even though he can stand on his own now, he can also accept help when it's needed most. And that is my pitch for Spider-Man 4. And to be honest with you, as for the love interest, I would really love to see Black Cat be introduced in live action for the very first time. I'm not counting Felicia in the TASM universe, because even though she was Felicia Hardy, she was not Black Cat. I want to see full-on Black Cat in the MCU. As I was saying earlier in the video, where Peter's going to focus more of his efforts on being Spider-Man more than building his life up as Peter Parker, Black Cat is a perfect character to do that, because Black Cat loves the Spider-Man and not the man behind the mask. So it's going to be Black Cat that could potentially encourage Peter to be more Spider-Man and not worry about his own personal life. But anyway, that is my opinion. What do you guys want to see in Spider-Man 4? Do you agree with me, or do you have any other ideas? Share your thoughts down below in the comments. Follow me on my social media. I'll leave my links to my social media in the description down below so that we can keep this conversation going. And like this video, and I'll see you guys later in the next one.